You guys? I thought you got us some cakes back.
Hi, Cheyenne listed as a letter for George.
Okay. So we're going to use microphones tonight, mostly because we had a lot of requests to stream this evening. So I don't think this is blowing anybody out of the gym, but this is really the only way they can hear streaming. So I haven't looked to see how many people join us, but if you're with us, thanks for being here. And thanks to all of you for coming. This is really exciting. You're never sure how many people you're going to get, and this is great. So thanks for coming. In a minute, I'll introduce Ruby Joe and what we're doing as a school. But before we do that, let's begin the way we begin everything at St. Columba. That's in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Good and ever-living God, we give you praise and glory for this day and for all the good gifts. We especially thank you for the outpouring of generosity today at our celebration of gratitude with our kindergarten, all the foods and items that were brought for our community and our food pantry. We also come together in gratitude for Ruby Joe and her years of experience, study, and work, and especially the work that she's doing with us as a St. Columba school community, administration, faculty, staff, and this evening, parents and families. We thank you for her gifts and thank you for her presence. We thank you for our families who joined us this evening, your special gift, their children. And we ask that you be with us and help guide our hearts and guide our minds, that you will lead us to your wisdom. We're all doing our best as parents, Lord, and it can be a challenge from time to time, but your challenges have purpose. And we know that you've created our children in the perfect image of yourself. So in that perfect image, we lift this up to you this evening in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. So this is Ruby Joe Walker. We met a couple years ago through a friend, and she started with us last spring doing some brief seminars at professional development days for our teacher. We just don't all sit at home and grade papers on those days. We do development. And she came in and talked a lot about how we as teachers, how we as administration, how we as a team can best be in tune with where we are in our nervous system, how to help regulate ourselves, and how to be in a state that we can be most present for our children, but also right now for faculty and staff to be present for one another. And so I'm really interested this evening because we've been working on ourselves a lot. And now I'll get to see how she works with parents and families. So I'll let her tell you more about herself so it's done properly and you get the right information. Thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you.
I've been a local therapist here for over 30 years, and I've done like 34,000 sessions in Durango. So I've been around. And I've been teaching trauma and kind of neurobiology stuff for a long time. And one of the things that's really kind of information that's out there now is a lot about understanding the nervous system. And that's really coming to schools, it's coming to, I don't know what I did. Okay, all right. So I'm actually really happy to talk to parents. I'm also a parent. I have a child who has a mental illness. She's an adult child now. She was adopted at birth, crystal meth baby, in utero exposure. So I parented one kid, but it feels like had quite a run with it. So a lot of empathy towards parenting. So what we're going to be talking about is essentially just understanding behavior. And so many times there's yeah.
You can do one thing for me.
Okay.
There's a lid on that.
A lid on this?
Yeah, hold it on.
What do you mean a lid?
I don't speak good English. There you go.
Okay. Is that's any better? I will echo.
I'm going to tell you it's going to be better.
Okay, all right, I'll go with that. All right. Okay, so we're going to be talking about understanding kids' behavior essentially through understanding their physiological state. And I'll be breaking all of this down. And then we're going to talk about co-regulation with kids, which is about how kids learn to regulate, just regulation skills, and essentially brain change. And so one of the reasons I love this topic, and I get so excited about it, is it really takes judgment out of any behavior, yours and your kids. We start seeing the lens of, our parenting decisions are also coming from our state. And so now we know that. So one of the things I'd kind of like to just start with is maybe just even in pairs, I'd like you to just take a moment to whoever's next to you, and try to keep it in small, like just pairs so that we're not taking as long. But I want you to just kind of name something you feel you do well as a parent. So maybe you two, like maybe here, keep it in pairs. Yeah. Okay, so let's then hear from you, some of you. What are some of the things you feel you do well as a parent? Just to kind of hear some examples. Yeah.
I play well with them.
Yeah, okay, great. Other things.
And allow them space to have everyone.
Yeah, right. Awesome. Yeah, that's what feelings are.
Could you repeat it? Because
Yeah, allowing the space to have all their feelings, good, bad, and otherwise. Playing well. What's that? Being present. Okay, great. You're already leading me into my topic. Yeah. Other things. Empathy? Okay. So what I want you to do now is I want you to just take a moment and feel in your own body. I want you to say to yourself internally, I am good at what? And then just take a moment and notice how it feels in your body. So just kind of because we're working on changing states here. So just kind of notice. I am good at being present, playing, holding the feelings. Whatever it is, just notice. And then what happens in your body? Like, what do you notice when you do that?
Slow down.
Things slow down. Yes. Excellent. What else do you notice?
Feeling love.
A feeling of love. And so where is that at? Like, what is that feeling? Something in your heart? Here? Your throat? Yeah. Okay, nice. Anything else? Relief. Yes. Okay. This is state change. So this is actually what we're going to be talking about really this whole time, is the idea of how to create state change. So we've just started. So one of the things that neurobiology gives us is it's a lens to understand behavior, and it underlines state-dependent functioning. And I'm going to fill this out, but state-dependent functioning, what that means is when I'm in a certain state, there's actually only certain things I can do. That's it. And again, I'll be filling this out. So one of the things we now know is that we are a really threat-sensitive species, particularly relationally. So what that means is, the moment to moment, our nervous system is going threat, not threat, threat, not threat, threat, not threat. We are particularly threat sensitive to relationship. And this is because we're mammals, and we're actually wired to be in connection. So our species, how we survive, is somebody better take care of us. We otherwise don't survive. Other species, it's how fast can you run? Can you swim? Like, can you get away? Can you fight? For us, is somebody going to care for us? So relational threat is actually very big to us. So it's kind of why, like, if you go to the grocery store and you see somebody and you can tell they saw you and they're acting like they didn't see you, your body will literally go a little into a threat state because we're so wired to connect. It doesn't meet our social expectancy. That throws us into threat state. And this is the direction we're going, is understanding what happens in threat state. So the newest thing in neurobiology, has anybody heard of polyvagal theory? I know Nicole and Melissa have, but anybody here ever heard of it? You have.
Something on the vagus nerve.
Yes. Okay, great. All right. So that's my expertise. Like, I'm a polyvagal theory expert. I've been studying it for decades at this point. And so polyvagal theory is the game changer that's moving to sort of every sort of profession right now, because it's all about state and threat and this information. So polyvagal theory was developed by Dr. Stephen Porges, and the whole idea behind it is that the polyvagal part, let me see if I can slide on that. Okay, I did, okay. The polyvagal part is about the role of the vagus nerve, because there's two parts to it. And then the theory part is how they connect it to evolution. So that's, the theory. So in polyvagal theory, there is a hierarchy in our physiology. And so what happens is, when we move into learning something new, we want to use it if we can. And so the other stuff will sort of fall away. So that's the hierarchy. Evolution is connected to the co-regulation of mammals. As I said, our survival is about, are we in connection? So, Melissa's back there with an adorable baby. Like, we feel this connection to the baby, and that's how they survive. And then another thing that happens is, this is all happening with something called neuroception. So you literally have a little TSA agent in your body. And what, like at the airport, checking everything out. And so it's a kind of radar. So moment to moment, your body is assessing these threats, millisecond to millisecond. So what happens with this then is, this neuroception is, I will say, early childhood trauma will skew it. And it'll skew it two ways. Either everything is dangerous, oh my gosh, I'm anxious all the time, or I'm making not the best choices, it seems, because my body's not getting, this is actually pretty darn dangerous, right? And so it can be worked with, but it's what's happening constantly, and it is the variable that determines our state. The whole thing is the intervening variable around emotion and behavior. So if somebody's emotions or behavior are happening, are always going to tell us what their state is. Okay, so how does this happen? So back before fish had jawbones, how safety happened? Stillness. That's still deep in our physiology. Oldest system in our physiology, red zone. So that's still in us. If our body, nervous system, assesses life threat, we move into shutdown collapse. Now what happens is, we can be in that and do some functioning freeze behavior. So we're just going to be a little more checked out, that kind of thing. So if the body says, nervous system says, life threat, we're going to go down and have shutdown and collapse. If the nervous system says danger, we're going to be in fight flight. So fight flight is very familiar to you. And it's a non-relational state. So reptiles, have this fight flight. Now, literally, a reptile can meet its baby 1 year later and eat it. We don't do that. We're mammals. So, and then this last system, the newest system on the block, is our social engagement system. And it's about how we're in connection. So mammals needed a way to breastfeed, to have sex differently than others, not just procreation all the time. So there is all of that required, being able to be in close proximity. So neuroception is this threat system, and it is connected to this vagus nerve. So this vagus nerve, here's a picture of it here, is essentially comes up from it goes from the brainstem down into the subdiaphragmatic organs. So one of the things you'll see then is the ventral vagal, which is the newest on the block, green zone, goes from here to here, because it's how we connect. I turn towards you, I'm using my voice, my eyes are connecting to you, I'm listening to you. All of that is about connection. The dorsal vagal is from the heart on down. There's a little co-opting of fibers kind of around the heart area. And what that means is our heart slows down two ways. One is because I'm in connection with you and I feel safe. The other is I'm in conservation state. Like think of the deer, being chased by a mountain lion, it falls over. It didn't make a decision. Nervous system did that. It led it into this kind of a state. So it's kind of why, like when you travel, you may have difficulty going to the bathroom because your body moves into threat state. So anybody with gut issues is actually having some threat state. This is very, very connected. Threat physiology is evoked. Now, again, how this all happens is something called neuroception. Now, neuroception is not cognitive. What that means is it's not cognitive because if you could, I'll give an example, and anything examples I have, I change identifying information. But at one point, I worked with this woman who went through a very messy divorce, very, very tough. And so what happened is 10 years later, her kid is having a baby, things are okay, feeling good in the relationship. So she goes to the baby shower. She's thinking she's going to be fine. She walks in and she just shuts down. Her whole nervous system went into remembering kind of the trauma of how it was. So it's not cognitive. You can't just say, hey, just feel safe. Doesn't work that way in our physiology. It's connected to the vagus nerve, and it's because it's sending signals up to the brain. So for a long time, we would sort of hear, hey, the brain rules all. Now we know the body does. This is why there's an explosion of mindfulness work, body-centered psychotherapy, somatics, the power of all of that, because when you change the physiology, you change the brain. That's really important. The other thing is it determines our state without our awareness. So unless we're really tuning in and working on it, we're not going to know our state. And it will always affect our physiology, behavior, and emotion. And as I noted earlier, it can get skewed. So what this means is sometimes maybe people will move into, like going to your child's baby shower is not life threat, but it was to her physiology. So she had real experiences. So this isn't like crazy stuff. This is actually what happens. Are you kind of with me? Is this making some sense? Any questions so far? I'm going to keep going and I'll fill out these states, but.
Tell me what you mean by it can get skewed.
What the skewed is what I'm talking about, if people oversee danger and undersee it. That's what I mean. And so it becomes inaccurate. So we have the best life if our neuroception is accurate. So we have the best life if I'm anxious and I actually need to take a movement, do something. I have to do something. So, like, let me kind of just think, oh, I saw my brother this weekend, and I hadn't seen him in a while. Anyway, I really was not happy about something that happened with my brother. And so my body was really amped up, and then I thought, you know what, I need to just speak this. This does not feel good, and I'm talking to him about it. Now, I did that. That helped my body come down. Sometimes accurate neuroception says, I'm actually leaving this. This doesn't actually feel good. Or, wait a second here, this is my boundary. This does not feel good. So accurate neuroception, when we have things on track, what we'll do is we'll make the decisions that will be about supporting ourselves. That's what we're trying to get to. We don't want people just, I work in a way that, like anxiety, like people, you just don't have an anxiety disorder. Like you have a nervous system that is overly reading danger. That's what's going on. And so when you begin to work this way, you get so much more effective because you're shifting the physiology to make a bigger change. You're changing the platform of what's possible for a person. So at this point, with stuff I've worked on in myself, if I get anxious, I actually need to do something. Like it's a signal from my body. Is that making sense? Okay, so what's really important about this whole in threat stuff, and this is going to be a little hard to see, so I'm going to read you some of these, but when in threat state, it impacts our physiology. That affects our behavior, our relationships, and our emotions. So this is huge. It's huge as a parent, it's huge as a human, it's huge as a teacher. It's just such an important thing. So I'm going to, I didn't bring any copies of this.
You want me to pull it back?
What's that?
I can make it larger.
Why don't you? Because I think it'd be good for them to see it.
Oh. I don't know how. It's not going to make that.
Okay, can you see it at all? Yeah, this is on my website and you can download it. Okay, so when people are in red zone, can it be just a hair clearer? Is that?
Let me turn this light.
Okay, let's just see if that does something. Okay, that's a little better. Okay, so we're going to go top down. So dissociation, suicidality, shame, helplessness, trapped, disappointing, confusion, disorientation, checked out, going through the motions. Those are all indicators of red zone physiology. There's a hybrid state that's actually freeze. They've just pulled this out in the last maybe 2 years. Overwhelm, procrastination, and competing impulses, meaning I really want to say this and I don't know if I should say this, okay? That creates like a hybrid state. Whenever you're having frustration or worry all the way up to rage or panic, your fight-flight system has kicked in. And then the social engagement system this is the fun stuff of being human. This is when we are our best selves. So compassionate, calm and connection, curious, open, settled, mindful. We think about the whole, we're in the present moment. So we're always trying to move nervous systems to move to this state because we have higher quality living. So if you sort of think back on what you feel best about yourself as a parent, I want you to sort of think, like right now, I'm sure you're seeing the connection, you were in green zone. Like you were in green zone in those good parenting moments. When you stay calm and your kid's like going off in some crazy way that you don't really like or you're concerned about, that's green zone physiology when you can do that. So and again, it's somebody's state and their behavior is actually going to tell us what their behavior and emotions are going to tell us what state they're in. So any questions on this? Yeah.
Is it normal to write a roller coaster throughout the beginning of the day?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Right. That's actually a good functioning nervous system. So we can't help get into threat. The real deal is we want this, we're going to be up and down. Our goal is to get to green zone as much as we can, but that's normal daily living. So we're going to, it's kind of a relief to hear. Yeah. Yeah. So it will really support the body if we know ways to get ourselves green. That's what we're trying to do. And we want to track our state, which we'll be talking more about. Other questions? Yeah. We are going to talk about that. The ways to help with it, yes. Yeah. Yes.
So how much of how your body regulates this has to be genetic?
There is a temperament piece, and I feel like that I'm going to talk a little bit about that because when we talk about, what's the question? First of all, the other question was, do we normally go up and down during the day? Yes, we do. This question is, how much is genetics? I think there's some determinant because you're going to have kids, and I work closely with school psych, and we sometimes do trainings in different schools and stuff in other regions too. And you know, one of the things is we've talked about just some kids, like they just have easier temperaments. They're going to just be easier to regulate. Other kids, they've been through a lot and they maybe aren't going to, but it's not always that. There is a temperament piece, that's for sure.
Are there times in development where the nervous system is more prone to bouncing back and forth?
Oh, well, for
Or is
sure,
it
adolescence.
Yeah. Like 10 to 25 or?
You know, it's a great question. I don't know. What do you think? Just being a mom and a human?
Well, I take the middle school and the top, so I would say they
Yeah.
are ping-ponging.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So the other piece is that, so she's saying, you know, having a middle schooler and a toddler. So we're going to talk just to think a little bit about adolescence, but the main thing with a toddler is it's very rare for them to have any regulatory capacity. That's just not what they have. So we are not born with that. This is actually something that we develop green zone through interactions. So you are their regulator. They're like, and you are the person to bring them down. That's how we're wired actually. So that's normal. Yeah. Another clue. Yeah. So, did I skim let's go into that, yeah. Okay, so again, one of the things that's going on in the body is, in red zone, we have conservation physiology going on. So that really means like, you know, just what we need to work is gonna work. So like immune functioning really goes down. Pain threshold goes up. And so again, that has an evolutionary function. Like if you're being eaten, you're not gonna feel it so much, you know, by another predator. Mobilization physiology is, you know, the body is like ready to act. There's an increase in heart rate. Blood pressure goes up, muscles move into some tension because there's a readiness in the body. I am mobilized to take action. And it is only in green zone when we have access to health, growth, and restoration. So our physiology is going to do best if we're there. So you probably have seen, or if you have any relatives or anything with mental illness, there is a big correlation with mental illness and health. And for this reason, this is the crossover, this polyvagal theory and how the body functions. My daughter, who is like 22, has had a hysterectomy. She's had her gallbladder out, and she's now using a cane. Like, she has sick, but she had horrible in utero experience. You know, her bio mom was not, I heard her bio mom said she has had one chocolate milk a day. So there's just not normal functioning there. Okay. Let's just kind of take, we'll talk about, so breath dysregulation will also tell us what state is happening. So when you see like shallow breathing, you're really looking at red zone physiology. That is a low oxygenation state. So this is so useful to our nervous systems that those kids in Minnesota that kind of fall through the ice, they can stay underwater for a long time because body moves to conservation state. That's what helps them survive. Yellow zone is quick, shallow breathing. And then in red zone or green zone is when we have regulated breath. So this is our first skill we're going to talk about to kind of help with our own green zone is breath. And so the wonderful thing about breath is that it's both considered voluntary and involuntary. So what we want to do then is help our breath when we can. So this is actually my favorite breath. There's a whole lot of good ones out there. What I like about this is you can do it in a meeting, you can do it right here, you can do it while you're talking to your kid, and nobody knows you're doing it. Some of them have some kind of outrageous like out breaths that you're gonna look weird in a meeting, okay? Let's just say it. So I'm gonna lead you through it twice. And so it'll be in for 3, out for 3, or in for 3, hold for 3, out for 5. So just right now, just take a moment, notice your body, not trying to change anything. And then, okay, breathe in, 1, 2, 3, hold, 1, 2, 3, out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Breathe in, 1, 2, 3, hold, 1, 2, 3, out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now what do you notice? Like what happens in your body? What shifts? Yes, yes, yes. She said tension releases. Other things you notice. What else? Lighter. Nice. What's that? Clarity. Clarity, yes, yes. So clarity. So all these great things happen because you just helped your body go to the green zone. So without even knowing, this tells you how threat sensitive we are. People always get a result from this. And the reason is that our body still keeps kind of going towards threat. So we have to be so intentional to actually shift our state. So this is the #1 skill. I personally do breath work every day. I'm always doing some because I know that it's good for my nervous system. Okay, so one of the things that's just important to know is that any dysregulation, and dysregulation means we are not really responding to reality. So if I overly get mad about something, I'm not regulated. If I am overly anxious about something, I'm not regulated. So regulation comes from, I'm just responding to the situation. So what happens is, it's always going to come from a perception of threat and a lack of safety, or not having our needs met. So if our needs are not met, we will move into dysregulation. So just sort of like right now, one of the things I think is important is to get what your tendency is. So we're all either a little fight, flight, freezy, kind of dominant. So I'm a fighter. People don't mess with me. I'm gonna kind of fight about something. And then it's based on what our experiences have been. I was a big sister, so I took care of little ones. So how many people here kind of identify with being fighters? Okay, great. How about fleers? Okay, and how about freezers? Yeah, okay. So what's really important is to accept your state. Like you have a dominance for a reason. This didn't happen randomly. Like this is a biological adaptation in your body. And so I like people to just accept it. Like this is my tendency without judgment, because it's actually not something to judge. It's actually coming from your life experiences and your physiology, where it got kind of in a way, where it became dominant. So now let's just hear about your kids. What are you thinking about your kids? Let's just kind of hear a little bit about stuff you get about your kids.
They're very different.
They're very different, okay? And how do you notice them being different?
My oldest surprisingly goes to freeze.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the second one is a fighter.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, you have something similar?
So what is the response?
Oldest goes to fight, and the freeze, and the youngest one goes to fight. Second. Oh, okay, all right. Well, then let's shift it. What are some of the behaviors that tell you your kid is more? Let's do flight first. What's happening that tells your kid they're more flight right then? What are they doing? Nothing at all. Okay. What else?
Or like pulling back.
Pulling back. What else? Not listening. What else?
Stop sharing.
Stop sharing. Yeah. Okay. Yes. They said that again.
Disagree with you, so you stop.
Yes. Yes. I'm trying to avoid what Mom was saying here. Yeah.
Body language too, like they'll change.
Oh, absolutely. That's great. You noticed that. There is body language in all of this. That's like a whole different, like we could go on and on for days about that one. Yeah. What about if your kid is moving into more fight? What are you going to see? Defensiveness. What's that? Yelling. What was that? Yeah. I heard something over here. Temper tantrums? Yes. Physical actions? Yes. Yeah, yeah. What about more freezy? Freezy shutdown, what tells you?
Won't make eye contact.
What's that?
Make eye contact.
Won't make eye contact, yeah.
Facial expressions, just.
Yep, that's right, that flat expression, yep. Anything else you can think of?
Don't respond.
Don't respond? Yeah. One of the things I always like to make sure people know too is this also affects our hearing. So what happens is only in green zone do we really hear, we're actually attuned to human voice. When we're in yellow zone, we actually hear defensively. This is why people have the same fights in a partnership, because they literally feel like you always and all of that because they hear defensively. And so, and then in red zone, we don't actually hear. You're not attuned to human voice. So it isn't sometimes that somebody isn't listening, they literally can't hear. And I like that you picked up that eye contact piece too, because that will oftentimes be an aspect of this. Yeah. Making sense here? Any thoughts or questions before we move on?
I know you said that we should judge our own tendencies.
Yeah.
But like in kids, they're still developing their tendencies, so I feel like we maybe see a wider spectrum of all three.
You might, that's a good point. I wasn't studying this exactly when my kid was growing up, so you could be right on that.
Like, is there not, because we're not judging our own states, but is there one that is maybe a little bit more regulated, that would be a better tendency for a child to
Well,
develop?
no, we're all gonna have a tendency. I hate to break it to you. That's just gonna happen. We're all gonna have a little biological tendency. The deal is, it's that the state isn't the problem as much as getting stuck in it is the problem. And so what we really want to do, and I think we'll be talking about that in a minute, is the idea of we teach regulation and we co-regulate. That's how we work on shifting it. So the nervous system comes back down. And we'll talk about that. But now it's time for a funny video. You might have seen this. Oh.
Uh-oh.
And
I can, yeah. Yeah, with the microphone.
I'll put this up.
Set it up as far as,
Okay.
where's,
I don't know.
there's all this pressure, you know. And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me. And I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head, and it's relentless. And I don't know if it's gonna stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me the most, is that I don't know if it's ever gonna stop.
You do have a nail in your head.
It's not about the nail.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there.
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is causing.
You always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail.
See, you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like, there's this achy, I don't know what it is. I'm not sleeping very well at all, and all my sweaters are snagged, wait, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
It's, thank you. Ow!
Come on, if you would just
Don't.
I do love that. Okay. So now we're moving to co-regulation. So this is actually unique to mammals that we do this co-regulation. So we're literally wired to struggle and have connection help us. That's in our biological wiring. You know, we are essentially hunter-gatherers. It's deep in us is to operate as a community. And there's not a lot of that going on in the world right now, for the record, in case you hadn't noticed. Okay, so it's part of our mammalian wiring, and all regulation for kids is co-regulation. So when you're talking about a kid moving into a state, what they need in that moment is some sort of co-regulation. And it requires regulation from the parent. This is the most challenging thing for people. So one of the things you're going to see is there's going to be a range for kids, and there is this temperament piece that was brought up. So meaning that some kids might maybe in first grade actually might be able to regulate themselves if they have kind of an easy temperament. Other kids can't at all. And these are not good, bad, right, wrong, as much as we need to just see them as differences. And it can sometimes be early experiences, even things that you're not thinking of. Like sometimes I think about the families that maybe had babies during the fire or during the pandemic. They might have different nervous systems through no fault of the parent, but just they might have different nervous systems as a result of that. Or, you know, a parent has a significant loss and they have a child with a sensitive temperament and the loss happens right at the beginning of when the child was born. This can affect it. This is just normal. This is not something to feel bad about. This is actually what happens. And then for self-regulation and co-regulation, during adolescence, co-regulation will move more to peers. So it will be less from the parents and more from the peers. That's how they'll feel better. And that's not black and white, but in a general way. So for co-regulation in parenting, it is imperative that we learn to be in our own green zone. So what this means is, I'm in a job, my job is to track my state. I'm working with people, if I'm doing therapy, counseling, whatever, people will not get better if I'm not tracking my state. I'm going to be a lot less effective. So that actually kind of helps me. I had kind of an advantage, because it's my job, like I need to do this. And so do, teachers. Anybody in helping, we need to do it, but as parents, we need to do it. So let's kind of look at how co-regulation happens. So this is sort of attunement. So attunement, it supports deactivation, which means it moves the nervous system from red or yellow to green, and embodiment, meaning it's actually easier to be in your own body if you get attunement. And it develops co-regulation capacity, which means that this is what we want for ourselves, for children. We want them to have more capacity to be regulated by another. That's, again, part of our deep wiring that's going to keep them in their best health, good relationships, and all of that. So where it starts with is presence. And so I know you brought that up. And so when we're present, we're mindful, we're grounded, we're embodied, we're in loving kindness. Now, this is actually hard to do sometimes as a parent, to be here. We'll come back to that. Then there's tracking. So there's recognizing the cues, the awareness of the state. So we're tracking the kid going, oh, like they're kind of like a little edgy right now. You pick up the cues, some of the things that you mentioned. Then there is the perception. They use cues to interpret what is tracked because you're in resonance with what's actually happening. From there, you respond. And so you respond to the needs, including shifting focus if another need is identified, and the idea is to deactivate them, to move them back to the green zone. And then you stay doing this. So one way this sort of happens is, think of a baby. We have a baby here today. And so a baby cries, and you hear the cry, so you're present, you're in your body, you track it, your baby's upset, so you pick up the baby and say, oh, are you hungry? And you try to feed it, and then they don't really respond to that. They don't want that. And then you see the diaper needs to be changed. That doesn't happen. Then you realize they're starting to settle just because you're holding them. And then maybe they want to be a little closer. So you do that. You pull them in a little bit. You're tracking and then perceiving and then responding. So this goes on really probably millions of times in a baby's life. And I'm not great with numbers, so it might not be exactly a million. I don't know, but it's a lot. Many, many times during the day. So what happens is all of these experiences over time teach more access to green zone. And that's what we want. So you're going to then have more capacity to be regulated. They're going to have more capacity to be in connection. All of this happens by all of these examples. So any questions about this? So really, anybody in a relationship ought to be doing this of any kind. You want to be present, tracking, perceiving, and responding. This is actually part of what will build connection. So I always like to tell parents, here's the deal. What the research says is you only have to be a third right. Only a third right. So 100% right actually doesn't ever happen. Nobody can do that. But it is through the distress that the child feels and that they get deactivation that actually builds resilience. So that stress and then getting met and coming back to green will build resilience and capacity inside. And so it's actually part of co-regulation. So it's really important, again, you don't have to be perfect. You're just trying to be in the 33% ballpark, 33% of the time. Okay, I think we're going to come back to this, but okay, another video.
Okay.
You're making.
I have a job to do.
You have a job to do. Yes, you do.
Really good at reading faces and bodies, because if I can look at you and feel what you're feeling, I can learn from you, connect to you, I can love you. Empathy is one of our finer traits, and when it happens so easily, perhaps because, and this is brand new science, this is just out of the lab, we may have some special circuitry in our brains that helps us whenever we look at each other. Ask yourself, why do people get so involved, so deeply involved with such anguish, such pain, such nail-biting tension over football?
Cleveland Browns are gambling on defense.
Why are we such suckers for sports? And it's not just sports. We can lose it completely at the movies, at video games, watching a dance. Is there something about humans particularly, that allows us to connect so deeply when we watch other people? Watch them moving, watch them playing, watch their faces. Well, as it happens, scientists have an explanation for this strange ability to connect. It's new.
It had never been found on a cellular level before.
A set of brain cells found on either side of the head. Among all the billions of long branching cells in our brain, these so-called mirror neurons have surprising power.
What we found is the mechanism that underlies something which is absolutely fundamental to the way that we see other people in the world.
And it began entirely by accident at a laboratory in a lovely old city of Parma, Italy, where a group of brain researchers was working with monkeys. And they were testing a neuron, that's a brain cell, that always made this sound whenever the monkey would grab for a peanut. So the lab had all these peanuts around, and whenever the monkey made its move, the neuron would fire. Scientists thought, now here's a neuron that is essential to motion. It's a motor neuron. Then one day, the monkey was just sitting around, not moving at all, just sitting, when a human scientist came into the lab. And when that scientist grasped the peanut, the monkey's cell fired. Now, the monkey hadn't moved. It was the human that had moved, suggesting that this neuron up here couldn't tell the difference between seeing something and doing something. Seeing and doing were the same. Or more intriguingly, that for this neuron, watching somebody do something is just like doing it yourself. The head of the lab, Dr. Moritz-Monkey, thought, wow.
The same neurons, one neuron, fire both when the monkey observes something and when the monkey is doing so. It's almost unbelievable.
It was surprising because this cell which was involved with motor planning for the monkey turned out to be interested in the movements of other people as well.
Some people call them monkey see, monkey do neurons, but the name that stuck is mirror neurons, because with them, the brain seems to mirror the movements it sees. This accidental discovery got scientists thinking, doing more tests, and it soon became pretty clear that this is not just a monkey thing, it's a people thing too. We all know that humans learn by looking and copying. That's what infants do. First you look, then you do.
Ready? Let's see me this way.
And once you've watched and copied and learned a set of moves, you not only have them in your head.
Look, you put your shoe on.
If you see somebody else doing it, you can share the experience. They know the moves, you know the moves, so you can move with them.
If you can use the years of training that you yourself have done, learning to crawl, then learning to walk, then learning to eat, this is an incredibly rich set of knowledge that you could apply to the problem of actually seeing what's going on.
So that's why when I head down the street carrying all of these packages, not only do people watch, look how they're watching. They feel my predicament, because they know what it's like to carry heavy packages. They all know about carrying. So as they watch me moving, they can feel themselves moving. Their neurons are mirroring the action. These neurons may be the brain's way of translating what we see so we can relate to the world.
The mirror system is the way that you tap into, the way that you harness your own abilities and project them out into the world.
And people are really good at watching and translating what we see. Like with just 13 moving dots, that's all there are here, you'll have no trouble recognizing these very ordinary activities. What's more, tests have shown when a person sees a movie like this of his own movement, he'll recognize it immediately as his own. And that's why sports fans tense with the action and wince and leap. Because if you know the game, then your neurons are firing as if it's you playing, giving a whole new meaning to the phrase armchair quarterback. That's why it's so easy to be a sports fan. But there is more, suggests UCLA professor Marco Iacoboni. He thinks mirror neurons tie us not just to other people's actions, but to other people's feelings.
So the idea was to try to figure out how the emotional system and this motor system are connected together. We're going to go in the scanner, what you're going to do is
To demonstrate, he put me into this very powerful fMRI brain scanner that can peer into the brain while it's working. And he gave me some goggles so he could show me pictures when I was in there.
So you can see here the eyeball of Robert.
And once he had a good view into my brain,
Nice looking brain. Robert, you're not supposed to talk when we scan you, all right?
sorry. Then he said, okay, I'm going to show you a bunch of faces. And for each face, I want you to imitate it. So I did that. Then he recorded my brain while I moved my facial muscles.
We're going to do it right away in our life.
Okay. Then he said, okay, same faces, but this time, don't move a muscle, just look. So I looked. When we check the results, oh, there's my brain. I've never seen my brain before.
This is your regular.
Iacoboni says that the part of my brain that's working when I make a face, the same part gets busy when I see the face. Plus, when I was looking at these faces, I remember feeling extra uncomfortable, kind of bad. But when these faces came on, I don't know, I felt better, almost happy. And in fact, at the moment I was looking at the happy face, my brain, and this is my brain, in that instant, see the red area here? It shows activity in the happy, emotional part of my brain. And when I was imitating happy faces, look, I get even a bigger response. This, says Iacoboni, is a consistent result. Mirror neurons, he believes, can send messages to the limbic or emotional system in our brains. So it's possible these neurons help us tune in to each other's feelings. That's empathy.
We strongly believe that's a unifying mechanism that allows people to actually connect at a very simple level.
You're saying that there's a place in my brain whose job it is to live in other people's minds, live in other people's bodies.
That's right.
Oh, darling, I'm gonna die. Don't let me die.
And great actors instinctively know that if they put feeling and drama into their bodies,
Hold me tight. Don't let me go.
their faces,
No, Mom, they're home.
we will respond.
I'm too brave to die.
What actors are expert in is using their movements to inspire feelings in the people watching. These are the experts in the mirror system.
We are intensely social creatures. We literally read other people's minds. I don't mean anything psychic like telepathy, but you can adopt another person's point of view.
So there's a whole lot of power in what's going on in us when we're interacting with other people. So mirror neurons, it isn't actually the newest thing, like he said, this is an older video, but it really means our brains are really in connection. And so like moms and babies with their limbic systems will literally light up while they're in connection. When I say mom, sorry, that's just kind of what I think of most, no offense. So what this talks about then is it means we have to pay so much attention to our state. The So, any questions about this so far? I'm gonna see where I'm at, find it all on time. No. Okay. All right, so something that's important to know is a dysregulated adult will never, ever regulate a dysregulated child. Not gonna happen. And so what happens is, what's normal though is we are gonna get dysregulated. Our work is to learn to come back to green. So your kid's gonna go off in some way, you're gonna get dysregulated. That's normal. The mirror neurons are happening in that way too. The thing you wanna be learning is how to move yourself to green. So what that's really about is being in more of this presence, where we're in kind of mindful, in our own bodies, in a kind of a loving kind of state. And one of the things that happens is you actually get better access to intuition. This comes from Dan Siegel, so you kind of know more what to do when you can do that. So for you, what are some of the indicators of your own presence? When you know you're present, tell me what's going on with you. Like, what tells you that?
You enjoy the moment.
You enjoy the moment more. Yeah, exactly. And that's a great one. So bonding happens with co-enjoyment. So when finding joy in your child is huge, that's a great one. What else? What else tells you about you're present? What do you notice about you?
You're thankful instead of needy.
Thankful instead of needy. Okay, what else? A relaxed body. What else?
Hearing them, really hearing.
You're really hearing them. What else? A couple more things. More observant, yeah. Because you're just simply more present to pick it up, yeah. What else?
Clear thinking.
Say it again.
Clear thinking.
Clear thinking, yes. So one of the things is we have barriers to being present too. And again, we need to see this as normal because we're a threat. We're, again, that threat-sensitive species. One is that we forget behavior is communication. And so we want to sort of know behavior is communication. They are telling us something. Taking personally is the number one thing I work with parents, is taking behavior personally. So when your kid is a pain in the butt, it actually is personal. But it feels personal. But that's one. Feeling ineffective. So when we start feeling ineffective, we really move into threat. Like that is really challenging. Forgetting our purpose. Like sometimes we just kind of lose the focus of what our job is in the moment. And then also sometimes triggers from the past. And I'm not talking about great big childhood trauma, although that could be there. Just anything. Like, just not being, having, well, that is kind of traumatic, but not being listened to, so that is traumatic. So, but, anything, and then all of a sudden the kid's not paying attention to you, or having situations where you haven't felt very powerful, and then you can't get them to do what you want. All of those kinds of things are going to be barriers to being present. So, and then we also, we have a tendency. We're either tend to be more auto-regulated, so this is another tendency in the nervous system. We have a tendency to auto-regulate, so we're just going to go off and be by ourselves, or external, we've got to have another person with us. And so that can be also a challenge for parents. So if you are an external regulator and your kid goes off by themselves, that doesn't actually feel that good. Or if you're more of an auto-regulator and they're like, regulate me, parent, you're like, I just want to be alone. I want to go to the bathroom. So just to kind of know, this is all part of what's going on. So let me kind of see how I am on time. Yeah. How many people feel like they're more of an auto-regulator? Okay. And how many feel like they're more external regulators? Yeah, kind of half and half about, yeah. So what's nice is to know what your style is and to just understand it. And that there is some connection to nervous system state. This is something like, when you talk about topics, sometimes parents are interested in that, just sort of more attachment type stuff, and that's connected to this section. But we're not going to do much more with that. We're going to move more to, so presence is about green zone. So it requires work and attention to one's state. And one of so the things that help the most is tracking our state. So one of the best things you can do is start knowing what your state is. It also helps to have a listening partner. If you're in a challenging parenting situation, you need support. Whatever it is, like this is real, or just a tough situation, period, you need support. Do not take behavior personally. Remember your purpose and what is your child communicating. So you want to be sort of working with these things. So one of the things that affects all of this is our negativity bias. It is actually a normal part of our survival, but our negativity bias is why, like if I'm walking or taking a hike and I see a little stick, I think it's a snake. My body really quickly does that. Even though I haven't seen that many snakes, like that still happens. So in the nervous system, we would always rather be safe than sorry. So we're going to overthink negative. This has a big effect because what we're doing then is we're looking at what's wrong all the time. We're over-focusing on the negative when it does happen. We remember the negative and we do not see the big picture. So this is really important, and again, it's normal. But because of this negativity bias and all of the ways that affects our state, we need to work more on working with our state. It creates the need then for us to be highly intentional. So being as intentional as we can around, like I'm committing to working more in the green zone with my state. I need to do that. Like, what's going to help me do that? I remember when my daughter was younger, I would need to drop her off, and then I would have stuff I needed to get to work and do things and all that. And so she one day said to me, "Mom, like you are so tense in the mornings." And I was like, "Let's get there, like get in the car, blah, 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 blah," kind of all of that. And so I said, "Okay, you're right, I am. I don't think it's good. I don't like it either. It feels bad. But what we need to do is we have to get up 15 minutes earlier. Because otherwise I am going to get anxious about getting there on time. And so with the stuff I've got to do, so it was like, but it was good feedback, and I had to work on then paying really close attention to my state. One of the things that really helps for creating green zone also is savoring. And savoring is linked with green zone physiology. So savoring is a type of taking in the good, and taking in the good is a Rick Hansen term. He's a brain guy. And that can be awe, gratitude, general human kindness, or even everyday positive experiences. And so just kind of take a moment, and I want you to think small. Something that's happened in the last 48 hours that was just a small, nice thing. Having time to stop and get a coffee. Having somebody ask you how you are, and they really meant the question. A compliment. So I want you to now bring something up that happened and then feel it in your body. And then what do you notice? What happens in your body? What are you sensing? Yes, a warmth. What else? A connection. Nice. What else? What was that?
Feels the same as feeling present.
Feels the same as feeling present. Yeah, and what does that mean for you? Like, what happens?
It simplifies things.
Yeah, but what is it in your body? Calm. There we go. Yeah. So this is actually a deal because this is a small thing you can do to change your state. So we are not going to notice what's good unless we turn towards it. So it scoots right past us. And so it's beyond like what I'm going to talk about here, but when I'm doing trauma work, I'm actually trying to integrate the things that were okay that actually were part of the whole situation too, because there were things. And I'm not trying to be a Pollyanna, but in a real way, when that happens, there's a deeper integration with the person, and they develop more capacity over time. This is a really big deal to learn to do this for yourself. So the other thing is to start noticing what are your indicators of that when you have moved into threat state. Let's just hear some of the things you feel in your own body when you've moved into threat state.
Pressure.
Pressure, like in a certain place in your body?
Maybe mentally to perform or help. Or
Yeah, okay, great.
So I feel pressure next, like my chest.
Yeah. Pressure in the chest, what else?
Increased heart rate.
Increased heart rate, mm-hmm.
Shakiness in your voice and your body.
Shakiness in the voice and the body, yeah. Brain foggy, yeah. So those are, excuse me, those are indicators of threat state, and you want to start knowing what your own indicators are, because we're all going to have some go-tos that are our thing, and they're going to be the same thing. That's how it is for most people. So when you pay attention to those you know then you need to do some of your own intervention. So some of that is starting to pay attention to even what charges you and what depletes you. Like what actually makes, like for me, being in nature oftentimes will be very charging for me, just even a little bit. I don't even have to be like in this great outdoors camping thing, just, we live in Colorado, by the way, so there's something, I hate bookkeeping. So if I'm gonna do bookkeeping and kind of doing stuff with like, what I do is I turn on a show I already know that has a happy ending that I love, and I'll do it. Because it's very hard for me to motivate myself to do that. So you want to pay attention to, in a way, your life, like, because you want to find out what does charge you, what does deplete you, and is there anything that depletes you that you can do less of? Maybe there isn't, but then balance it out. And is there anything that charges you that you could make more time for? Again, these are things that will send your body into green. So tracking state is so important, and because you're wanting to add charges when you can. And so really noticing how things affect you. So brain change. Brain change is intention and attention. So you intend to do it. So obviously, this is my business. This is what I do, what I believe in, what I think about. But so the idea is you have to have the intention. Your negativity bias will make it really hard to have positive brain change unless you hold the intention. So it's just like you are not going to feel good physically if you never eat a vegetable and you never do any movement. Like you're just not going to. So just like physical health needs certain things, brain health does too. So the thing is, we are always shaping our brain. We're either shaping it for the better or not. And we want to be shaping it for the better. So one of the things that's important is brain change is actually not that much time. It's little and often. So oftentimes I'll have clients say, I can't take 15 minutes to do a mindfulness practice. They probably can. You know what? It's less important to do that. It's more important to do 10 to 20 seconds of shifting your state. That is 10 to 20 seconds, 10 to 20 times a day. 100 to 400 seconds changes the brain. That's a deal. So it's so doable. And so, but it requires intention, and we're so automatized with so much of what we're doing. We just scoot through things without really paying attention. We have to kind of build it in, or it won't happen. So mindfulness is helpful because what it does is when you bring in mindfulness, what you're doing is, and you maybe know this, but just in case you know, you actually change the relationship with what you're feeling. So meaning you're observing it then. That actually begins to shift it. So that there is a whole lot of research about that. And mindfulness is essentially awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in present moment and non-judgmentally. That's the thing. So the skill is to do some sort of mindfulness. Let me see how much more I have. See if I can, okay, I can do that, okay. All right. So right now, one type of mindfulness that like I teach like a lot of my clients is to actually come into the environment. So right now, let your eyes go where they want in this environment. Like look around. Like move your head, look around, see where your attention wants to go. And now then take a moment and notice your body. Can you feel a shift? This is supposed to work, is it? Can you feel it? Do it again. Let your eyes go where they want. And whatever you notice, take a moment to notice just a couple details about it. Okay, now come back and now notice your body. What do you notice? Being grounded. Being grounded, yeah. So this is actually a bit of a deal for our nervous system. And the reason why is we're so threat sensitive and we're constantly looking out for where's the danger, where's the danger. When we move our attention to the environment, you're literally sending a signal to the brain that it's safe. So people will usually take a breath, their shoulders will come down, there'll be some shift, and it is a type of mindfulness because you are in the environment. You are actually in present moment. And so this is another one of those things that you can do to kind of help your own nervous system. So this is the regulation menu that we've talked about. Well, we didn't talk about self-compassion, but I'll just go ahead and do something with it. The breath is the 3-3-5, savoring and taking the good, tracking state, find balance with that. Mindfulness, and I like this orientation, low commitment, and self-compassion. So this, I want to say one more thing about orientation. Another reason it's actually very effective is this is ventral vagal complex or green zone physiology. Green zone physiology is here. So when we use our eyes to turn towards, look at, we're engaging, all of that uses this physiology. That connection has a easier access to green zone. Any questions? What if you just, I'll do the summary first, I guess, okay. So one of the things you want to look at in summary, undesired behavior in children is based on states of threat. You want to know that. Track your state regularly, learn to stay in the green zone, it will result in more skilled parenting. Because I'm sure all of you here, if you think of like your least skillful parenting moment, you were in red or yellow. And if you think of your best parenting moment, you were in green. That's how we all are. So we're shooting for green. Children will not get regulated if you are in dysregulation. So you always want to pay attention to that. So sometimes it may even look like, gosh, am I being selfish that this is what I'm feeling like I need to do? Yeah, you probably need to do it if it gives you more access to green zone. Use skills for challenges to stay in the green zone, remembering little and often. So this stuff works best if you're doing it regularly so that you have it as available to you when you are in more of a threat state. It will be more accessible to you. It's just like anything. You're literally building the neural pathways. So the more you practice it, the more you're creating that. Yeah. So let's just maybe just in whoever's sitting next to you in the threes or whatever, twos or threes, just kind of talk about like what can you take away from today, and is there any regulation skill you're really willing to try? And just maybe take a few minutes in the group.
Yeah.
So let's kind of hear, what are some of the things that are coming out in your groups? What are you taking away? What are you taking away, or what are you willing to try? Let's just hear from a few folks.
Breath work
Yeah,
is like the simplest and hardest thing to do.
yeah, yeah. What else? Yeah. What
About
else?
the marrying that, that not only will the child probably marry you, but you gotta recognize that all of a sudden you start marrying, because that to me happens a lot.
Yes.
The child is at this level, I'm gonna come in but take a breath,
Yes,
think about something good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, nice. What else?
I feel like I almost need to, because I go to that freeze state, I need to figure out how to stay present when so I have to figure out how to still stay in that moment. So maybe looking around.
Orientation is one of the best things for that looking around is that one of the best things if you're a little freeze dominant. Yeah, because it brings you, because the tendency is to be a little further away, all of a sudden you're getting more right there. Yeah.
Say that one more time. Orientation.
Well, for like, if somebody is freeze dominant, I'm always doing orientation with them because it's a safe way to be in your experience, you're being in the environment. There's also a tendency, if you're a little more, if we're in like more yellow zone, we're a little like this, like, oh my gosh, like what's gonna happen? If we're a little more red zone, we're kind of a little more pulled back. And so because it's a little more of an inward state, I try to get them in the environment because that's gonna start helping their physiology shift more quickly. So if it's red, so like even if you see it with your kid, like I Spy, or just something of really, whatever that game is, like what's the color of, or that kind of thing.
It's like looking at the sky.
Yeah. What clouds? What pictures do you see? Yeah. Any of that?
I've done that non-intentionally.
Yeah. Unconscious competence.
I like that.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Any questions?
So on your red, green, yellow graph, there was an I can't.
Yeah.
Delineation. But we're taking away the helping kids build their confidence in their ability to regulate.
Well,
Is there a confidence component to that?
well, yes. So when our physiology will be more likely to go into red zone if we hit an I can. So a lot of suicidality actually occurs in there's some red zone physiology that leads that. So when we feel I can't, we move more to red zone. So like, I'm always trying to help people find what they can do. What that does is, it lowers you on that physiology scale, and then it will eventually lead to sort of more competence and, a sense of mastery in general. So we're just gonna feel better. So that's a connection there with the I can't. So when people are particularly freeze dominant, you want them to start noticing, I can. Like when people get really stuck in deep victim physiology, there's a lot of red zone. So they've actually had real experiences that led them there. And so they won't actually know that they can. They don't have that felt sense experience.
How can you help a child get out of the shutdown red zone?
It depends, like acutely or?
No, like broad, over time.
Oftentimes, direct conversation can be challenging for them. So to do parallel, like sit next to them instead will be helpful. And you want to keep just building the relationship. You kind of want to support, I can. You want to also make it okay that they're like, want to do things kind of quiet on their own sometimes. Yeah. Well, I will tell you, your kids are very lucky. I have been very impressed with the teachers here. They are amazing. I've done education things throughout the state, and I had a job with all I did. And I don't think I've ever run across such, it's really touching. They're so intentional around wanting to sort of support kids in learning. It's actually lovely to see. I feel like really lucky to just get to work with them. They're so, they're just wonderful. And I think they're all, we all live in a thread, and they are so committed to just working on their own green zone and offer so many skills. They're just simply lovely. Their dedication is just so impressive. So you're very lucky to have your kids here. I haven't seen anything like it. Like it's just across the board, every single one of them. It's like something lovely about them. What's that?
No. Trevor looked at me and you want, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I had a question maybe for Kevin. Yeah, if I start talking about the red zone and the yellow zone and green zone, has that been introduced to the children, that idea? Or has it just been something talked about here for the teachers?
Currently, the polyvagal theory is mostly just with the teachers. One of the things that we touch on is in our Frenzy program. So our Frenzy program is our biblically based social and emotional program. So we do things similar, like when the children come in, a lot of the teachers ask them on a chart, identify how you're feeling right now. Or some of the teachers, when they come in, a fist bump means they're tired, a high five means they're feeling energetic and happy. So we check in with them throughout the day, helping them to be able to identify what their state is, but we haven't moved in to not the same terminology.
But you can very, very easily. And so I have a handout on a kid version of this, a younger kid, and I can send it to the school or something, have Kevin send it out. I have a lot of families, so when I'm working with parents, I encourage them to kind of talk about it. So I had one mom who came in and said, oh my gosh, like my daughter said, Mom, you're going yellow. Like, calm down. Like, you're not doing that green thing you're supposed to be doing. And so, because kids, it's kind of interesting to me. This was, like, I'm really seeing young kids be able to learn to do this, to be able to get whether they're green, yellow, or red. And so I think you can talk about it. Because like the stoplight, it's just kind of like, it kind of matches that, and there is a little chart. So I have a lot of families who do this.
And one of the things with teachers is, and she mentioned specifically our teachers, as their lead educator, I'm kind of pulling them back and saying, let's take care of you. They'll want to take this they get excited, and it makes a lot of sense, and they'll want to go run out and teach it and start implementing it. And Ruby Jo and I talk about this a lot. I know that time is coming, but I'm asking them to do one of the things that she talks about, and that's to savor it. That's to have self-compassion. That's to take a little bit more time with themselves, and we're taking it with each other. I was in a meeting the other day, and somebody shared something with me that was difficult. And many of you know me well. I tend to talk a lot, and I process. Yes, I process outward. And this person told me something, and I didn't say a word. They were frightened, and they asked, why am I not getting reaction? And I told them, I'm kind of in the red zone. I'm kind of stunned, and I don't want to respond in where I am right now, because this is more about what you're sharing with me than my reaction. So as a team and as a group of people who care for one another, we're practicing it with each other now to then bring it out later. That's our ultimate goal.
The other thing is if there's anything that tonight kind of piqued your interest, we didn't really know what to offer. So we have one more I'm going to do probably in April or May. And so if you have an interest in a topic that's kind of connected to this, let Heidi know. Is that okay, Heidi, to let you know?
And we forget things, like we probably should have had a table for you to sign in and say you were here tonight. So we didn't do that, but if you would please, just send Heidi a quick email that you were in attendance. That way, some of the things that Ruby Jo sends us, we make sure that you get it. These are some of those things that we want to be targeted for you, that we're here to make sure that you have the info.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for participating. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ruby Jo.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll make this quick. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. God, we thank you for the gift of science, for the gift of human reasoning, as well as for our free will, that we can change our state, that we can turn to you for that guidance, knowing that you have plans for us as a family. So we just give you praise and glory, and thank you for this evening through Christ our Lord. Amen. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Yeah. Don't forget to email us, please.
What are the cause? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your enthusiasm.
Bring that back to me.
You're interesting, because you want to be dragging the feet. They're doing something, they're dragging the feet.
We can do that. The last one you probably.
All right, we're gonna go do a little something.
Oh, cool, together?
Yeah, I don't know, we'll get some snack or something. You go, have time here. Okay. Thank you for inviting me. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Oh, yeah, I don't know if I'll see you again. Yeah, we're heading out. When are you leaving? Friday morning. Okay, we're leaving Sunday morning. I love you, friend. Have a good time. How you doing, self-employed? Yeah, although, okay, Judah asked if we could skip Florida this morning. I'm like, no, yeah, I don't think so. I'll be praying for you guys. Okay, see you next time. See
But there's still a charge there, so we should still do some.
Oh, yeah.
So there's something there.
Well, yeah, be interested.
Thank you for putting this on.
You're welcome. I guess, yeah. There's.
Someone's gonna go get them tomorrow. Thanks.
I bet she was like really sad.
Huh?
I bet she was sad.
Oh, there's.
Right, so over, like,
So the more you.
I mean, her, 'cause I think that's.
This is where my thinking
She got very subconscious.
You wanna go out the other door?
Like, I want her.
It's over here, you see this, I know,
I mean, kids you find that you're tired or, you know, what's going on with it, so it's more complicated there as the answer you want, so it's just one.
Yeah, it's up there. No,
But you wanna still try to shoot this.
Tonight, tonight. And I think there is some places better. Right, it's still.
Yellow one goes on Maggie's desk. It's good looking.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I just went through earlier, you said too, so.
Good idea. Make sure you tip that bag yourself. Yeah.
You had said it when we were like, oh, no, we were sure. I know, that's a lot, but, thank you very much for your time, that was wonderful.
Good,
Yeah.
so glad.
You want that there? Yeah. Oh, you get pizza, please? You didn't eat, because you're eight. Where are
You know you. I'll see you Tuesday. Yeah, bye. Where's